Alrighty, it's 9 a.m. and we'll begin with the pledge, if you could all join me. We're not live streaming, are we? Okay, all right. I wasn't sure. Okay, well, welcome to everybody that's come to attend the public hearing for the 2022 Elbert County budget, those that are here in the room and anybody that is watching online or watching this later. Amanda, it's 9:01. Could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Thayer? Here. Commissioner Pettit?
Here. Alrighty. I guess with that, we've only got one item on the agenda today, and that is to conduct the public hearing for our 2022 budget. I would accept a motion to open public hearing at this time.
I'll make a motion we open public hearing for the 2022 budget.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and second to open public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. We'll begin with a presentation from County Manager Sam Albrecht and Budget Officer Simon Albrecht. It's a tag team, I guess.
Thank you, Commissioners. So welcome to the 2022 public hearing on the budget, on the 2022 budget. This is part of our annual process. We have a requirement to do a public hearing. This public hearing notice was put in the paper of record, and we also, the budget is on the website in its draft form, and so we are here to take any public comments on the budget, and we still have time to take those. Commissioners are going to consider approval of the budget on December 21st. This budget is a work in progress from the delivery of the draft to you on October 14th. We continue to make tweaks moving forward. And so we will continue to make tweaks in this budget until about December 20th, hopefully a little bit before that. We're going to freeze input to the budget on about December 1st. And we think that'll give us time to finish all our summary, get our summary document ready for the 21st meeting. We normally limit comments on the budget to the end of the presentation, and we limit those to about 3 minutes. And our overview today is kind of our outline. We're going to talk about the budget process for a little bit. We're going to talk about the 2022 budget, the strategy and the goals going into that development, and then we're going to look at the summary as well as elected officials and county department reports on significant changes from the budget from last year to this year. We'll talk a little bit about continuous improvement, budgeting changes, what's in, what's out, fund changes and projects, and then we'll have a conclusion. I do want to introduce my budget team that is here today. Tony McCormick, my finance manager, and Kristen Monks, my budget. What's your title, Kristen? Budget and grant specialist, and Tiffany in the back room making sure that we get everything right. So I'll talk a little bit about the process. We'll talk about this budget schedule and the organizational chart. I've grayed out the where everything that we've done so far. We started in January and run it all through. About June or July, we start getting really serious about the next year's budget. We start taking a look at the financials of year to date and year-end projections. And then October, we get really, really busy with getting the draft ready by the middle of the month, and now here we are in November. So again, as I mentioned, we'll be looking at final adjustments. We'll be looking at the Department summaries, we're still tweaking those. The budget workshop, which we had, and then in December, we certified mill levies from all the local governments that are collecting mills, and then we asked the BOCC to consider adoption of the budget on the 21st, and then back to January. The final budget will also be delivered to the state sometime in January. One of the things I like to go over in this budget presentation is the org chart and kind of talk a little bit about how it works here in the county. So up here at the top, you've got all the elected officials. And as you take a look, the different departments and functions, for example, the treasurer is also the public trustee. Clerk and recorder has the clerk to the board, elections, motor vehicle, and recording. Sheriff has patrol, investigations, and detentions. As you come down to the county attorney, hangs over here off the side and reports to the commissioners, as do I, and then all the different departments underneath. So one of the things that's changed from last year to this year is I tried to pull out the departments and functions that I take care of over here from the county manager perspective. CDS, we've split that up a little bit more, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, and then the key parts of Public Works. The budget strategy is fairly simple. It's the same process we used last year to take a look at where we want to go. And so the commissioners in January put together some budget goals for the next year. So we'll be taking a look at those. We always refer back to the strategic plan and the 5 major goals in that strategic plan. We also take elected officials and directors' collaboration and input into this, and then that continuous improvement budgeting. How can we do a better job every single year to make this budget even better? So here's the summary slide on the Commissioner's 2022 budget goals. The purpose is to guide that development of the budget. It serves to supplement the broader goals in the finance and strategic planning documents for the upcoming year. The goals for 2022 was similar to 21. Make sure we have a balanced budget. Make sure we're thinking strategically. Make sure we have reserves and start projecting out into future years. The assumptions that we build into the budget is the CPI, Consumer Price Index, on how we charge for fees and how we look at pay increases, that type of thing, as well as health care, what our projections are going forward, property insurance, and population increase. The personnel side of that is, again, documentation of the FTEs. That's part of this budget. The compensation, the cost effectiveness, and number of hours per week. The efficiencies, we take a look at the personnel. How can we be more efficient? Do we need to look at contract versus new people? Taking a look at the software systems and electronic storage for efficiencies. On capital investment, roads and bridges. The Transportation Master Plan is a piece of that, as well as a longer range facilities plan. And then on policy changes, take a look at what we need to do for stability, budget process, and policy guidance. On the strategic plan, I mentioned those 5 big goals that we look at every year. Maintain a financially sustainable county government that is transparent and effective. That's the big one that helps drive the whole strategic, budget. Ensure a qualified, trained, and efficient workforce. Deliver plans, updates, and status to citizens via multiple channels while ensuring open two-way communications. Take a look at planning for continuity of government in case of disaster, infrastructure failure, or economic impacts, and then support growth and economic activity in the county. How do we gather elected officials and directors' collaboration and input? Through that series of meetings throughout the calendar, where we start looking at the budget kickoff meeting. How are we going to develop the budget this year? What's worked well in the past? What do we need to look for going forward? Then we focus on the general fund for a little bit, where most elected officials reside, or is in the general fund, and we've had several meetings on that in this process, and then a budget scrub meeting as we get down to around the 1st of October and what we're going to be presenting to the commissioners in the first draft. Continuous improvement budgeting, this is a term we came up with a couple years ago on trying to make our budgeting better. What does our finance department think we should do? What does our accounting firm think we should do? What does the audit firm think we should do? What do our elected officials and directors think we should do? And what are the best practices from other government organizations that we should implement? Spend just a second talking about what a balanced budget is. It's pretty simple. Recurring costs not to exceed expected revenue, and capital and project costs may utilize fund balance. So let's talk a little bit about the presentation going forward from this point. It's kind of the budget summary. We'll take a look at major revenue and expenses and fund balances. We'll take a look at some 21 versus 22 projections. We'll take a look at budgeted revenues, financing sources, and transfers in, and then total budgeted expenditures and transfers out. Big picture, this is kind of where we are going to be for the year. Total revenues budgeted for 2021 was $34 million. Total revenues and transfers budgeted for 2022 is $41 million, an increase of a little over $7 million in this year, primarily due to ARP funds, some property tax additional revenue, and then the rest is fees. Total expenditures and transfers out in 21 was close to $37 million. And our total expenditures and transfers out, we're budgeting right now is $39.5 million for a total increase of about $2.5 million. Ending fund balances in 21 across all funds is for 21 was $27 million, and for 2022 we're looking at 28.7 mil for a total increase of about $1.7 million. This is how it looks in spreadsheet form. Just gives you a little bit more perspective in 19 and 20 on what those actuals were. And then as we get more and more updates on 21 projections, we'll factor those in also. And we start looking at some of the graphics on major revenue sources. Again, as I mentioned, taxes is our primarily source of revenue. Intergovernmental transfers is this other big piece of the pie over here. We have charges for services and licenses and permits making up the majority. We have some tiny slivers for special assessments and net investment income, and of course a catch-all miscellaneous category. Looking at the expenditures by function, general government is the big piece here. Public safety is also a big piece of the pie. Public works, and then public health and welfare, and then those are the big chunks that we see out of this expense pie. So a little bit, of course, I always like to have my elected officials here if they want to talk anything about the budget, but I'll be covering most of these slides. Sherry, if you want to add anything on your stuff, I'll cover yours too, so we'll be good. Commissioners, we'll go by, and then Sheriff's Office. I've got one slide for Treasurer, Surveyor, and Coroner, and then Clerk and Recorder, Assessor, and then we'll jump into the department reports, which is County Manager. So the Commissioner's budget is primarily just to make sure that we continue to look at implementation of sustainable employee compensation improvements. That's a budget goal going forward in 22 ties back to their 2022 budget guidance document. Continuing to look at the improved financial condition of the county, looking at some more long-range planning and spending, as well as revisions in the reserve policies that we have to take a look at future impacts of whether it's an economic downturn or long-term capital investments. And then building that public health capacity, we've still got an opportunity to use some of the CARES Act money that came down to increase that public health capacity, and that's what another one of their goals. And I've already mentioned long-term facilities needs and supporting economic business and recovery. Sheriff's Office got an increase of half an FTE in this year. That rounds them up. Their goals for 22 is to continue planning on that new jail facility that we have talked about, taking a look at the critical maintenance on the current jail, and then efficiencies through software upgrades. And one of their big projects for coming up in 22 is that body cam implementation. We have a statutory requirement of getting that in place before July, and we're well on our way to do that. We're in final contract review right now for that system. The treasurer, coroner, and surveyor, again, no significant budget changes in treasurer's office or the surveyor's office. Coroner had a request for an additional vehicle that is in the motor pool line item. Other than that, they had no significant budget changes. The assessor has no increase in FTEs, minor changes to expenses, and then the goals that are listed in the document are also copied here. Clerk and recorder, and elections, no increase in FTEs. A couple elections coming up this year that'll take some time. And then in 2022, they're going to continue to look at efficiencies and cross-training and be able to eliminate any single points of failure. And they're hoping to have full redundancy by the end of 22. Now, all the county manager departments, we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about, and here's where I wanted to draw your attention to the Community and Development Services line. You see that sub-bullet that's bolded, Economic Development and Community Service. That's a new department we're going to start tracking in 22. Tony and I are working on the layout of that. And then so in that final budget, you will see a department for economic development and community services. We track a lot of funds. We are a fund accounting shop, so we'll talk a little bit going forward in the next few slides about all the funds and their balances also. So what does this budget include? It includes 3.5 new funded FTEs. We eliminate the 2 IT positions and we make that, and that's a net 3.5 increase. We eliminate 2 IT positions and make that a contract shop now. That ties into that whole efficiency piece that we talked about. We added the position in finance. That's Kristen's position in budget and grants. As we take a look at all that $5.2 million that's coming in ARP, and then getting a better handle on our closeout of CVRF funding, which is some of that is 30 months, and then taking a look at all the new grants that are coming in from emergency management. We'll expect to see more grants coming in possibly from the new infrastructure bill. We're going to see the continuation of grants within the sheriff's office, so she's going to be fully engaged. The half FTE in patrol, I talked about that. 1.5 in facilities and maintenance. You know, we've talked in the previous years about the deferred maintenance backlog that we've had. We have decided not only to invest in the contract piece of that, but also the personnel side of that. In order to get everything done and clear that backlog and deferred maintenance, we're going to need a little extra help. So that's another, we had a seasonal guy that wasn't on the budget. We've added that as a full-time position next year. And then we are also adding half an admin in there to take a look at getting proposals, working some of the paperwork, and just helping out there. 1.5 in community and development services, and we continue to see staffing challenges there, so we've increased that. We've got a new planning manager in place, and we're going to add not only another funded position down there, but an unfunded position in planning. The other half position that I've got mentioned there in fairgrounds ties into that facilities and maintenance, half an admin. So they're going to split their time between the two: fairgrounds reservations, fairgrounds paperwork, collecting the deposits, refunding the deposits. So that's that other half there. And then half an FTE in the corner. This is really to recognize the part-time positions that we had before. We actually have 4 part-time positions there that are paid by the job minimally, but to get it on the books as a FTE, we took a look and we decided the seasonal and the really lower part-time employees should be recognized in that full FTE count. So that's the reason that we did that. We have had really good luck with the overhire positions in the sheriff's office and detentions. They're now fully staffed, and so we took a look at 2 other critical functions that we see increased turnover and may need overhire authority for, and that's in case managers in human services and in planners. So we're going to allow those divisions to go with unfunded overhires. That has to be paid for with vacancy savings, and so we think that's going to work out just fine. This also has the big goal, and we talked about it last year when we were here at the budget, was the upgrade in pay for employees. We spent a lot of time with a compensation study that was outsourced. We took a look at surrounding communities. We split it between rural and urban neighbors on what the pay plan, pay grade should be. And so this budget, the big increases that you'll see in each department budget in general is because of this new pay plan. We have worked hard to get to, with all the directors' input and all the managers' input, to get people in the right spots, to correct exempt versus non-exempt disparities, to implement the Equal Pay for Equal Act law. And so this document, this budget, institutionalizes that, for lack of a better term, and gets everybody to where they should be. So that is a big plus for everybody working together on getting that done, and a big plus for the commissioners and continuing to make that an important part of their priorities. And so that is, we still are looking at 36 hours for most shops going forward next year. Sheriff's office continue to run 40 hours, but to get all that salary increase in there was a huge accomplishment. We also had a 3% increase in healthcare costs, and we offset our cafeteria plan to make sure that the employees did not directly see that 3% increase in health insurance. The continue to fund long-needed repairs and upgrades to the fairgrounds campgrounds. That's a big project coming up. We're continuing some other projects we've had going. That's the GIS contract, the well monitoring study with USGS, and communication support, including the Elbert County Connections newsletter that we mail out. And then also it includes CVRF and ARP funding. Again, some of that CVRF funding was 30-month money, some of it was 24-month money, some of it was 12-month money, some of it was tied to state budget year, some of it was tied to our budget year. So it's been Kristen's going to make sure that we do all that correctly. Just to take a look at the general fund and the county manager's departments. And so that general fund has, and these are primarily the county manager departments, but I also am showing a little breakdown over here on the side of where the majority of spending comes from. General fund, sheriff's office and sheriff's detentions are the two of the big ones there. Non-departmental, that's just a placeholder department. It doesn't really have any job function other than transfer money in, transfer money out. And then IT is our biggest one after that. We've become very heavy and dependent on IT and providing more services and efficiencies through IT, and that'll continue. Talk about some of the other major funds. Public Works kind of controls three things, and they cross between general fund and the Road and Bridge Fund. Road and Bridge, no increase in FTEs. We are looking at funding that new Public Works facility. That groundbreaking should start next year. They're going to continue to look at gravel rebuild, asphalt rehabilitation, and bridge critical repair and replacement. We've got a summary of their capital improvement plan that'll be an appendix to the budget. The building department, no increase in FTEs, but their goals, tying back to the strategic plan and to the commissioner's goals, is to look at revenue and expense projections between 22 and 25. Fleet motor pool, a new lease of 6 vehicles that are not specifically for road and bridge. And I think there's 3 or 4 that are being, that'll go up on gov bids and retired once those new vehicles show up. This slide gets a little packed in there, but again, they have projects for asphalt rehabilitation, gravel road rebuilds, drainage and build rehabilitation, and then equipment replacement for 22. Fund 25 is sales and use tax. That's estimated to come in at a little over $5 million for 22. This is the budget for that money going forward. Beginning balance of about 5.2 million and anticipated ending balance of 8.1. And again, we bank some of that money throughout the year in order to spend it in future years. Public health, no FTEs. We're still filling some of the FTEs that were authorized in last year's budget. And then again, taking a look at core public health services going forward. Human services, no new FTEs there. Their goals are very similar to last year's goals on trying to improve their child support responsible parent program, looking at collection percentages for child support, looking at some child welfare practice transformation, and then a couple other goals there related to some of their other programs. Impact fund, this is one where we generally have 3 major categories: impact fees and expenditures, cash in lieu of open space, and economic development and assessment expenditures. And we'll take a look at some of those very specific projects in that final budget also. So this gets us to the summary of the fund balances. General fund, again, with the increase in personnel costs is the primary driver. Looking at total budgeted and revenue transfers in of 15 million and spending about 16 million in the budget. And so that fund balance will go down about 7%. We think that'll be covered by future years. So let me talk real quickly. We think that all those salary increases that we did will be covered in future years. We wouldn't be recommending those this year if we didn't think that they would be covered by future year projections. The special revenue funds are all down in here. Some are up, some are down. Nothing here that is a great big concern. one that always catches everybody's attention is the retirement fund. We have fund balancing measures in place for that before the end of the year, so we shouldn't have any problem there. Debt service funds, we are, as you know, we take care of Chaparral Valley, Foxwood Estates, Meadow Station, and Sun Country Meadows. Capital improvement, we're going to start the end of the year with about a $500,000 balance there. We have at least $250 in expenditures out. We have another availability to $246. You've heard me talk a little bit about in the deferred maintenance program and short-term and long-term projects. We're working on that for the final budget. If we did want to take more money out of reserves and spend toward that, we could. I don't have a recommendation on that right now, but we have about $500,000 to spend. The reason I don't have a recommendation right now is some of those projects that we did here at the tail end of 21, we are pretty sure are going to be ARP eligible, and we have not yet requested reimbursement for those. And so that ending balance might go up a little bit, or it might go down, depending on what we submit in ARP funding for 21. Taking a look at the 2022 budgeted fund revenues and expenditures, that most of the funds are pretty small. As you look down at this end, the big ones though are the general fund, the road and bridge fund, human services, the grant fund. I called it impact fund earlier, but it's now there's the grant fund and then the sales and use tax. So we're getting close to the end of this. I've got a couple of slides left. One is the next steps. What do we have left to do between now and December 20th or the 19th, if that's the date we decide to post that final budget? We need to finalize our current year-end projects, including ARPA. I just talked about that. We need to finalize our future years facilities projects. What are we going to do next year? What are we going to do the next 5 years? What do we need to do in the next 10 and the next 20 years? Very similar to that long-range CIP that the road and bridge guys do. We need to fine-tune the minor revenue and expenses. We still have department heads and elected officials say, is there time for me to change my budget by $250 here or $1,000 there? Yeah, absolutely. Until we freeze it, we're still taking some of those little minor tweaks. I talked about splitting out economic development as its own department. One of the other things that came out of the next one there is include a strategic financial document as an appendix. This came out of the director and electeds meeting, as well as the BOCC work study session that we had a couple weeks back. And what do we want to do? What's our long-term financial plan? Technically, budget is a one-year document that takes a look at longer-term income and expenses, and we're going to add an appendix also for our strategy document on our reserves. And so we've got the outline for that. That's been talked about amongst the team, and now we just need to write that text and get it ready to go, and we'll be working on that, and you'll see that in the final budget document. Layout and design, this is not a pretty, we build this budget currently on Excel. It's not a pretty budget. It's not a pretty worksheet. And so we need a little bit of help, and we've got a team in place to do that layout and design and that nice cover page and the table of contents, and inserting some graphics and photos where we need to make it a better budget. Going forward in 23, we think we've got a solution in place. We've got to do some more due diligence on some government accounting, government budgeting software. Tony and I are going to sit down. We also think it'll provide us better reporting and more interaction and more efficiencies with the directors, electeds, and department heads to have better input into their budget and better review of where their current spending year to date is, as well as their current revenue year to date. We hope that'll also kick out a really nice quarterly plan, but again, we've got to do some more due diligence on that. And then again, submitting this final document to the BOCC for recommending approval on that on the 21st of December, and then submitting to the state by the 31st. In conclusion, we have met our budget goals for the most part. We will have a kind of final report on that when I do the 21 budget, or sorry, the 22 budget presentation on the 21st of December. It is a balanced budget, and our reserves are secured. Great teamwork. I've mentioned it. I can't mention it enough. And then a couple of things there to be completed. The depth and capacity supporting future county needs and that strategic plan implementation are also things that we want to need to do in addition to that sheet that I showed, or that slide I showed just a second ago. With that, Commissioners, I will be happy to take any questions, and I don't see any public here, so we should be good.
Okay. Actually, just was going to open for public comment to see if anybody present had any questions. Not seeing any. Amanda, I'm assuming we had nobody that provided email comment or wanted to be called. And then I guess Tony or Sam or anybody that may have been contacted, since we had the public notice posted, have we had anybody that's shown interest in reviewing the budget or had comments for us?
No.
Okay. With that, I will close public comment. Any comments or questions on what we've seen?
No, I don't have a question. When are we having the meeting to certify mill levies?
We get those. It's a weird calendar this year, Commissioner. It's the 15th, I believe, is a Thursday or a Friday. What we'd like to do is the same day as that 21st meeting and do it.
I thought before, with statute, they had to be the state by the 20th.
20th?
Yeah, so you might look into that.
I'll take a look at that. We can have that meeting on the 20th if we need to certify the mill levies.
Yeah, because then they got to get it entered into the state if it's by the 20th, and you might check with whoever did that in the past on how long it took them to get it done. Because it's usually a rush.
Yes, sir. It always is a rush. And
One, thank you. I know it's a lot of work for you and everybody that's not in the room today. When we are working the more strategic document that you're going to add on future financing, I do think just to be able to answer that question, that how long can we sustain dipping into the general fund balance, or what do we project to moving forward that'll prevent us from continuing to decrement that while still keeping our adequate reserves and cash flow numbers.
okay.
I guess similar to that was just and I think you touched on it, was just the long-term funding impacts of some of the positions we've added that are CARES and ARPA funded. I mean, I know that'll carry us for several years, but what does that look like beyond? And then I do think it'd be useful, as we've gone fully to contract for IT and move those FTEs out, at some point kind of a breakout of, how much of that looked like about 1.2 million is in direct support to which offices and departments, because we're going to continue to see growth there as we bring IT into other offices, and then it moves to IT for sustainment. So it looks like they're continuing to grow tremendously, but the growth is really kind of part of the growth and resources to other departments.
And IT and Tony and I have had some preliminary discussions on what that might look like. But yeah, I would love to be able to show a pie chart next year saying that, this is the contract price, base price per person. Here's the ones that have add-ons or additional support requirements. And so how much of our base contract is per each department, and how much of the add-ons and extra stuff that gets charged is also by department.
Yeah, and then the final one was just kind of a minor one with Chaparral. My understanding is we're paying off our own
I think you're right.
internal loan, so we really don't need to go positive there. Just close them out and call it good. That's all I've got. So with that, I guess I'd take a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing on the 2022 budget.
Second.
A motion and second to close public hearing on the 2022 budget. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're out of public hearing. Don't think we have any other business before us, so.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.